make somebody poor, and mercy no more could be if all were as happy as we. A mutual fear brings peace till the selfish loves increase. Then cruelty knits a snare and spreads his baits with care. He sits down with holy fears and waters the ground with tears. Then humility takes its root underneath his foot. Soon spreads a dismal shade of mystery over his head, and the caterpillar and fly feed on the mystery. And it bears the fruit of deceit, ruddy and sweet to eat, and the raven his nest has made in its thickest shade. The gods of the earth and sea sought through nature to find this tree, but their search was all in vain. There grows one in the human brain.
Abstract, meaning a concept or an idea. So this poem deals in ideas, and I think what's striking is that we find Blake becoming very political in his approach. Pity would be no more if we did not make somebody poor, and mercy no more could be if all were happy as we. So the rhyme very powerfully underlines a key idea, that you would have no more pity in the world if people weren't poor, that pity is linked to people's suffering. Okay, obviously he's talking about a particular type of pity here, and I think it's important to understand the political context of this. This poem follows immediately London in the Songs of Experience, and London, we've seen the consequences of poverty, and in all its senses, poverty of education, metaphorical poverty that is, and literal poverty, people, you know, the chimney sweeper having to work in the as a very young child for the church in order to make money and to live. So a mercy no more could be if all were happy as we. So you don't need to be merciful if everyone is happy. Again, this is quite political. I think really thinking about the context, you know, we wouldn't have to feel merciful if the sorts of horrors we saw in London, with very tiny babies born with syphilis and gonorrhea, infecting and blinding them, we wouldn't have to have mercy then, would we, on people? A mutual fear brings peace till the selfish loves increase. Then cruelty knits a snare and spreads his baits with care. So mutual fear, that's when both parties are frightened, that brings a peace. And in fact, that's a very modern sort of idea. We had a few years ago during the Cold War something called MAD, Mutual Assured Destruction, where both the Russians and the Americans were pointing nuclear weapons at each other, and the idea was they kept peace because you know, they didn't want each other to blow each other up, and so the mutual fear, the fear of both groups brought a sort of peace. But that means that selfish love's increased. You become selfish, don't you? You love yourself. Then cruelty knits a snare. So cruelty, he personifies cruelty there, using a technique called apostrophe, which is where you capitalise a concept. It's used a lot in 18th century poetry. In particular, Thomas Gray's Elegy on a Churchyard uses it. Knits a snare, knits a trap, forms a trap, makes a trap, and spreads his bait, spreads the bait for the trap with special care. So cruelty is at the heart of this system of mutual fear. So Blake, again, being very political, saying that, you know, if you create a context where people are miserable and poor, you keep them quiet, you keep them peaceful by fear, by the threat, by threats. He sits down with holy fears and waters the ground with tears. Then humility takes its root underneath his foot. So now carrying on this personification of cruelty, saying that he looks like a holy man, looks like a priest who is crying and, you know, taking pity on people. Then humility, or being humble, he appears to be humble, but of course it's a false humility, it's a false kind of pretense of being humble, takes its root underneath his foot. So he's developing a sort of new metaphor here, the idea that humility is growing like a tree. Soon spreads a dismal shade of mystery over his head. So the humility has grown into a tree, this sort of false humility is grown into a tree, and is spreading mystery as a shade over himself. And this is an important metaphor in Blake, the idea of the tree of mystery, and it relates to a sort of biblical image, an image from the Garden of Eden of the tree of knowledge. And Blake was very against the concept of mystery. He felt that everyone should be open with each other and tell each other what they were thinking and feeling, and he gave a sort of metaphor for the opposite of that, which is a tree of mystery which hides everything with a shade, hides the truth of what's going on. And the caterpillar and fly feed on the mystery. Well, we have these sort of animals, these creatures that are like parasites that are growing fat on this mystery. They're benefiting from this mystery, they're profiteering from this mystery. This is a particular type of animal that represents you know, the sort of insect life of mankind, and it bears the fruit of deceit, ruddy and sweet to eat. So the tree of mystery has this deadly fruit, a bit like the fruit of the tree of knowledge, but it's a fruit of deceit. It's people are paid off, aren't they? They're given this fruit from the tree of mystery because they've shown mutual fear, they've shown pity towards people who are poor, but the whole thing is sort of propped up by this system that's very, very unfair, isn't it? A system where you have the winners and the losers. The winners are the ones who are in power, who have wealth, and they can afford to be pitiful towards the poor, can't they? Towards the chimney sweeper, towards the soldier being shot in war. They can afford to show mercy at various points, but actually they are eating the fruit of this tree of mystery. They're profiting from it. And the raven his nest has made in its thickest shade. So the raven, this sinister kind of black bird who's made this nest, a kind of a harbinger of evil, quite a sort of popular image in many poems and stories from that time and way back. The gods of the earth and sea sought through nature to find this tree, but their search was all in vain. There grows one in the human brain. So all of the gods, all of the sort of perhaps important people in the world, the powerful people, are trying to find this tree and grasp the fruit of it, this tree of mystery. thinking that somehow this is a tree which is got magical powers, that this is a tree that is God's tree, but the solution is that actually this is a human invention. All of this is a human invention. I think it's a very important idea, isn't it? That Blake is saying that so much of what we say is religion, this kind of idea that God should take pity on the poor and show mercy, and this is sort of God's way of being. This is God's mysterious creation. Often, religious people might say that we can't understand the sort of mysterious ways of God. That people are poor. This is just God's mysterious design. Blake's saying, no, hang on a minute, that's not true. That all of this is a sort of human invention, and looking for these sort of trees of mystery, believing in this tree of mystery, is actually propping up this social order which is completely unfair, and is they're designed, structured, so that people are poor and there are winners and losers. And so the poem is a very political poem, and it has to be read in the context of the Songs of Experience, and particularly in the light of London and the Tiger. Blake is building up here, isn't he, a picture of the world of experience, and the world of experience is dominated by the priests that you find in the Garden of Love, who are making rules and regulations, binding with briars my joys and desires. They're tying people up in the kind of rules and regulations of their religion. They're confusing people with their belief that God is mysterious and that we can't understand and question why people are poor. We just have to accept it's God's way, and believe in that kind of structure of things. And Blake is saying, no, all of this is our doing. We as a human society have created it. And so he's building up a very powerful criticism of the way the world